Hi there. Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Taste with Sherry, where we're saving the earth one flavor at a time by gathering community to share wisdom around the natural connections between our innate sense of taste and flavors that are grown in healthy regenerative soils. Welcome. Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Taste with Sherry, saving the earth one flavor at a time. All right, you guys. So today I'm super excited because I'm very honored to interview a gentleman who is a fourth generation farmer, has a beautiful, beautiful farm up in Wyoming, just outside of Yellowstone. As a matter of fact, I met him. I think we met through social media of all things.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Social media.
Yeah, I was following foodies and you were one of them.
And so I think I remember after our first conversation was when I posted pictures of Yellowstone. I was up there and I was like,
right.
Oh, the land is so beautiful. And you were like, home. I was like, okay. So then we chatted a couple times. So I would love to introduce you all to Rod Morrison. And Rod, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history and this farming life that you've led?
Yeah, thanks. And it's great to be here. Yeah, my farming career starts back about four generations, at least in Wyoming. My great grandfather moved here from Missouri and started farming in the Powell Valley, and then all their kids moved here because there wasn't a whole lot going on in America other than the Dust Bowl, and so they all moved here and settled in and started raising food and working for farmers, mostly working for farmers because they didn't have anything. So through that, they got a toehold and ended up being farmers here and being very good at it. And I got the pleasure of working with both my grandfather and my great uncles and doing organic farming, which I had no idea that there was such a thing, and I don't think they did, but
it was just farming then, right?
Yeah, we were just farming and doing it the way that you had to do it to succeed. And now we've got an actual brand that's called Organics.
Yeah. So that's a fascinating journey. And organics has always been there's so much you can say about the word organic, because when I first learned about it, and this is an interesting connection that I have with you too, because I think I told you early on how one of the most influential books for me when I was first learning what was happening and why organic mattered, and because I had a girlfriend who was trying to convince me way before most people were talking about organics. This is probably in the early to mid 90s, right? And she's telling me about how there's these chemicals that they're putting on our crops, and they're toxins and these, genetically modified foods. And she's just and I'm like, really? Right? Like I was totally like, exactly. You're one of those like conspiracy people. And like, she still reminds me to this day. I always just bow to her because I'm like, thank you, Andy. But so we've had this. Oh, so the connection that you and I had was, I told you about the Michael Pollan book, Omnivore's Dilemma. I'm like, that book was amazing. And you talked about Wendell Barry, right? Like, him.
Yeah, we've met, and we both looked at each other kind of like, you're kidding me. I mean, I handed him my business card and he looked at it and he's, wow, okay, cool. So you think this is possible? And I said, unless we try, we're not going to know. And he agreed, and we just, I mean, he knows where my heart is, and I know where his mind is and his heart. And we were cool with it. But he definitely congratulated me on the idea and that I had the determination to do it. And
you're talking about the idea of organic, like getting organic.
Well, take my farm there. I took our farm and made it certified organic, got it certified, got it inspected, went through the process, with the idea that somehow I would enter the organic meat market through the internet, because I really knew that we could connect to consumers that were interested. The trick is finding interest, and that's what social media is all about. But so it wasn't until I had Wes Jackson, who is a plant physiologist that's developing Kernza down in Kansas. Kernza is a perennial wheat that we can make flour out of and stop plowing the earth, which is huge.
Wow.
And, he comes in the door of my house. He says, I understand I need to get to know you. And I said, really? He said, yeah, my friend Wendell Barry told me that you and I should be friends. And I said, well, I think that can be easily done.
Awesome. Yeah, such great connections to have,
Oh,
like,
it is.
to those people that really, really, spoke out and brought awareness to the movement early on. Like I said, that book, Omnivore's Dilemma, it's probably one of the most life-changing books for me, because it was just this, this good journalistic writing that was just kind of painting a picture, and you can draw your own conclusions from it.
That's the key behind Wendell Barry and Wes Jackson. Both of them were younger than my great uncles. They didn't make World War II. They certainly lived that world of organic agriculture and understood why, how come, what for.
Right.
And yeah.
So then, without getting too far into like the dark and dirty and ugliness of all of the things that have happened, when you were working with those people and on the teams to help there be this certification in organic, what was the big impetus? Like, what was the intention of organic at the time that you were working with these people to make it a certified thing?
That's a really good question. And it was an amazing adventure with them to discover that, because I was sitting in meetings with the people that wrote the standard, and they were all talking about the things that your friend was talking about, the chemicals, the process, the genetic, all those terrible things, which she's absolutely correct.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, okay, but we got 9 billion people we got to feed.
Right.
So, okay. And then, so then you get into discussion, well, can organics feed 99 billion people? And that's a question that still hasn't been answered. So to avoid not feeling bad, that's what they were using to promote organics, all the things that your friend was talking about. But really what it comes down to is survival. And it's that serious. So to set somebody down and say, this is where we're at, this is the road we went down, okay? Now, and we went down for all the right reasons, because we were asked to feed the world, and now we're being asked to switch it to something that says we're not going to be able to feed the world. So what we've got to do is we got to get in a position to feed ourselves.
So are you saying that the intention of organic was in order to, like, that survival aspect, is that coming in because of the way food has changed would paint a picture that wouldn't create survival, and that organics would? Or
yeah, there's nothing sustainable. The word sustainable is the key.
Okay.
You have to define what sustainable means.
Right.
And it's not about sustainable cash flow. It's not about sustainable trips to town.
Right.
It's not about, it's the 3 basic things you need: air, water, and food.
Right.
And when you put those things down and you say, okay, how do I make those 3 things sustainable? Air and water are pretty simple. Food gets more complex.
Right. So it was more in the lines of organic is a much better way for us to be able to continue to keep growing food, right? Like,
it's the way nature exists.
Right.
It's the circle of life.
Right.
And unless we're living inside of that feedback loop, that circle,
right,
we're outside of it doing something different, which requires resources that are soon going to be not around, or soon we're not going to be able to use them. So we need to get ourselves in a position where we're in the cycle, doing it according to what nature says we need to do. And
I'm curious
that's the whole idea behind organics.
Yeah. That's so much, like, it's so fascinating to hear it from that perspective too, because even me as a consumer, right? Like, or probably most of my listeners as a consumer, like, you choose organic because it's less toxic, right? you're not even thinking about the bigger picture here, that it's more sustainable, right? This is a better way to continue to keep our soils alive, to keep, it's not, we can look at it from a selfish perspective, like, okay, this is going to be better for my health because it's less toxic, and it usually tastes better, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it absolutely
tying in the whole
tastes
flavor
better
thing.
because now you're not growing food by the ton.
Right.
See, as an agriculturalist, as a farmer today, I want to grow as many tons as I can grow. I don't care what it tastes like. I don't care what the feel in your mouth
Right.
is. I don't care if you can't digest it.
Right.
I just got the market says this is how many tons I want. This is what I'm going to pay you per ton. That's my focus.
Yeah. So
It's,
this is what the
yeah.
farmers are facing, right? This is the mentality that they're dealing with. So I'm curious, because you have a lot of farms in your area, right? And I think you told me that a lot of them are conventional.
Yeah, we're a 97,000 acre irrigation district, meaning that we're high desert lands that were created under the Carry Act, which was about pre-World War II. Buffalo Bill decided to build, the beginning of electricity was being discovered, and the way to generate electricity was with backing water up and running it through a turbine. So that was the main gist behind what happened here in Wyoming. And we now irrigate about 97,000 acres at the midpoint, which is 5,000 feet. And but yeah, you're right. We're caught up in the conventional world. Yes.
Yeah. So do you think this is because farmers don't really feel like they have a choice, or how? I'm just curious what the
Yeah,
thinking.
I mean, they really don't, because if you start connecting the dots, I mean, and I talked to the people that wrote the standard, I said, why did you put this 3-year deal in it, where it takes a farmer 3 years of farming organically to go from conventional to organics, 3 years. Where did that come from? And it really comes from the fact that they felt, and again, they're not really farmers and they're not tied up in the money system that we have today, that 3 years would build kind of a wall, because once they committed to doing that for 3 years, they would never go back. And yeah, I mean, if you sacrifice your family to
Right.
create something
That's
like organic, yeah,
a big
you're not going to go
sacrifice.
back. Yeah, but
Right.
to think that you're going to stand up on the wall and get shot, and your family's going to get shot because you're taking a risk to do something that's going to drop your yields, a lot, and change your whole farming structure. It just it was an impossibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've always kind of just had this like heartfelt feeling and wondering, like what, because when I attend all these soil conferences that I listen to, and people are trying to do the right thing, right? And they're really trying to be creative and come up with different ways, to heal the earth. And even just, talking to home gardeners, like even no-tilling, like I no-tilled my garden this year for the first time, and focus more on minerals than the NPK thing, and like all this stuff that has been programmed over the last couple, decades
Mm-hmm.
of how to grow things better with the whole Miracle Grow and all that stuff,
Right.
right? Like it's
Right.
just,
Well,
it's such
Miracle
a
Grow is
small
nothing more
piece.
than a urea. So I mean, it's not any different than what conventional farmers use.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just fascinating. But what I
It
would
is
love,
fascinating.
yeah, it really is. And my heart goes out to farmers. Like I love that there are people out there that are trying to do
Oh,
better, different, like, and getting the communication out there. One beautiful thing about technology, if you can say anything, is that, we have access to people that know different things now. If you look
mhm.
for it and find it, you can find people that are doing things differently, which I think is a beautiful thing. But it's still hard. Like it's not like,
Well, that was the one thing that got me to change, because after I went to about 3 of these meetings with the people that actually wrote the standard, uh, they caught me out in the hall on the third time, and they said, you ask really good questions, and we really feel like we need to talk to you a little deeper. And I said, okay, so we want to tell you why we why we're doing what we're doing. I said, great, I'm ready to listen. They said, well, here's the deal. We ain't got that much longer in our soils with trace mineral before we run out of trace mineral. And once we run out of trace mineral, we're not going to have photosynthesis, meaning we're not going to be able to grow plants in our dirt because we've already mined it. I said, okay, thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. This is a real conflict.
Right.
And we need to get back to how we did it 70 years ago.
Yeah. And probably even some kind of an accelerated way to get there, right? Because you can't wait 70 years to go back to the way it was.
Exactly. Yeah. And the amount of, it's,
yeah.
In fact, that's just the thing that twists my brain, is how are we going to do it?
Yeah. So one of the other really cool conversations that you and I have had together is around the idea of calories, right? And here on my show, we've had a lot of conversations around calories. And as a matter of fact, Ron Ben Joseph has been one of my guests on the show, and we talk about the diet culture and how we focus so much on calories sometimes, and then from the aspect of flavor, people that want to eat sweet things feel guilty about the calories. But the reality is we're not looking at calories the way, like the big picture of what calories truly are. And you and I have had fascinating conversations about that. So I would love it if you would kind of paint that picture for us.
Yeah, and that starts out with what I originally talked about was the 9 billion people we have on the planet. And the reason we have those 9 billion people is because we discovered that calories are buried in the ground in the form of carbon fuels. That's what's created most of our problem and most of our addiction. But that real point became something that was brought to my attention by Wes Jackson. Wes Jackson asked me a question when I got out of my tractor one day when he was here visiting, how many calories I had in a hay bale. And it was a 1,200-pound round bale that came out of the back of my baler behind my John Deere 4440. So we're standing there, and he asked me if I thought I knew what the calories were, and I took a guess, and he said, yeah, that's pretty damn close, somewhere between 20 and 17,000 calories, which to me I thought was substantial. But then he said, well, how many calories did it take you to make it? And that's when I went, never ever thought about that. So during the day, I was always trying to figure that out because there was a lot of aspects that I hadn't actually put together like that. So what I discovered in my journey on his question of calorie was I was burning as much or more calories to create something that would give calories to something else.
Isn't that fascinating? So tell us real quick, like calories aren't anything to do with food, right? And we've mentioned this before, but calories are
food. Food is calorie.
Right.
So the question is,
the simplest definition of a calorie is just a measurement of energy.
It's how much. It's a measurement of energy to boil 1 ounce of water. To raise, not boil, just to raise the temperature 1 degree.
Right.
And there's Celsius and there's Fahrenheit. So if you raise it 1 degree, it's taken a calorie of energy to do that.
Right.
That's the definition of a calorie. So, and that's, whether you're moving your body or you're jumping in your car to go buy a dozen eggs,
Right.
I mean, when you jump in your car to burn the fuel to go get a dozen eggs, then you got to say, wow, I just burned half a gallon of gasoline, which is 18,000 calories, to go get 500.
Wow.
What in the hell is sustainable about that?
Right.
And that's really the key to the whole calorie calculation is we are burning more calories to create calories than the calories themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about sustainability, right?
Yeah, and it's like 10 to 1, if not more than that. So for every 1 calorie of food that we're bringing home to feed our families, we're burning 10 to 1,000 calories to get there. And it's
Wow.
just, and it's every aspect of the production of food, the production, the processing, the marketing, the logistics, the refrigeration, the keeping the lights on in the store, keeping the air conditioner running while you're going to the store, running the air conditioning when you walk in the store, the electric door opener that happens when you open it. I mean, it's it's everything. And
Wow.
when you do that calculation, you just go, wait a minute, we shouldn't be down this road, but we
So,
are
right.
both
So
we're so down this road that we can't back up. And that's my biggest fear.
that's really mind blowing, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
because you hear
it
people
just
talk
puts it.
about like, and it takes a certain person to even think at this level, but even just, the whole eat local movement. Like, I went to culinary school and the focus was local and organic, right? Local and organic, local
Right,
and organic, local and organic.
right.
And
And really what you're saying right there is the key. That is the answer.
right,
But the problem is most locales can't feed themselves.
right, right. And what I see that and I know that. And I've had friends, like when I've talked about organic before, and these are friends that even live like in the suburbs, not far from, Denver. And, they'll say, but I can't afford organic. And that's enough, right? That's concerning enough that people can't just afford food the way food is meant to be grown, right? So that's enough of a concern. But even like she pushes back on me sometimes. She's like, be careful when you push organic because people can't afford it. And it becomes this, the food deserts are a real
Yeah, but
thing.
here's the thing. The problem is you can't afford organics. You need to quit buying diesel fuel because the diesel fuel is subsidized. Because really, the price of diesel fuel needs to equate the present value of the food calorie. So basically, what I'm saying here is one food calorie, let's just, it's a really close example, is 1 penny. So you get 1 penny, you buy 1 food calorie. Now you put that 1 penny, that value, back into what a diesel fuel gallon is, or what a gasoline gallon is, or whatever it is you're doing that day. And you say, okay, I've got to pay 1 penny per calorie for the penny that I'm driving to get that dozen eggs. Well, that's 17,000, yeah, 17,000 pennies. It's going to take you to go from your house to get the eggs. You're not going to do that. You're going to go, wait a minute, I can walk to get the eggs. And that's what we have to do. We have to price the food system according to the price of the food itself and then it makes everything relative. And
And
then we
it
go,
makes everybody bring it in, right? Like
oh yeah,
that
it's
creates
like
the
a huge
demand,
sucking sound. Yeah.
right?
but
That
but
creates the
that makes
demand
Wall
to,
Street unhappy,
right? Of
makes the
course.
bankers unhappy because now they're not setting the value with their debt. You're setting the value to something that's real, which that's what we did when we had a gold standard. We had the gold set over here, but we printed paper that was backed by that gold.
Right.
All I'm saying is then we do the same thing. We now print paper according to food, the
Calorie
food calorie.
economics.
Yes, calorie economics. And I'll tell you, yeah, it will grab the emergency brake and throw it on
Yeah.
and and change everything.
Yeah.
And it will be like,
Fascinating.
oh my God, it will be like that. But that's, we're going to live in oh my God anyway. So I'd rather do it now.
We're really close to, oh my God, like it's it's scary.
It is scary.
And I hate to say that because I try to like keep things upbeat and
And,
try
and
to
I
look
want
at,
it to be too. I mean, I really do. I mean, that's
yeah,
why I do what I do, keep from
yeah,
going insane, because it
just
just
kind of,
keeps me busy thinking, okay, I'm going to solve my own problem. And
yeah,
that's this
yeah.
one.
But it's important, like it's important for us to be doing the work that we're doing and to keep having hope. Um, and to
Well,
keep getting,
I really appreciate this conversation, because you were one of the first that actually took the time to listen to it and ask really good questions and understand it, and that's important. it's basically been something that I've batted around with just another friend that's got a PhD in religious studies, and she's
Yeah,
totally
which
bothered by where we're going. And I'm like, listen to this idea Wes Jackson planted in my mind. And as soon as I told her that, she was like, oh my God.
well, and
Yes,
that was
yes.
fascinating to me too, that conversation, because in that conversation, I remember you talking about like this theory of money being like a form of religion, this faith, right? This faith that we have in money, and it really is just a belief system. Like, so like to take that and wrap the whole concept around like calories and economics, I was like I am the kind of person who loves thinking about things differently, right? Thinking outside of the box, which is why I'm like, okay, flavor,
Right.
yeah, it's good, it's delicious, we love it, but it's going to save the earth, right? This whole different
Oh yeah, and you could
looking
do
at
that.
things.
Yeah, if we could just wrap our minds around the idea of flavor, and but the thing is try to explain to somebody young today the flavor of a carrot pulled from the garden at
Yeah,
my aunt's house. I mean,
right,
I haven't found that
right.
anywhere. Okay. And
Yeah,
the reason her carrot tasted so amazing was because she grew it for flavor, she grew it for texture, and she knew what seeds would work at the latitude and environment that she was at. And that took probably 3 or 4 years of
right,
genius of place to
right.
learn that aspect of
Yes.
that plant.
Yes. So,
And
this is the kind of reverence that, gosh, if we could just get back to this place, right? Whether it's individual small farms, or if we can figure out ways to get, conventional farmers the support that they need, and the advice and the resources that they need to be able to get back to this, and to get back to this idea of more localized farming. And there's a gentleman out in LA, his company is called Crop Swap LA, and he's working with Garden Socks to do urban gardening, right? There's people like LA is a perfect climate to grow things, but we have all the concrete and all the
water's a problem.
water is a problem. Yeah, this is true. But this is the thing. This is and with water being a problem, that's even more of a reason for us to fix our soils in the middle of the country, right? Because that will fix our water problem. Like, there's so much tied to this. There's so much tied to fixing our soils, and like you said, bringing the minerals back, bringing the life back to our soil. It's not about NPK. It's about the life in our soil. It's not about yield.
It's
It's
about
about flavor
copper,
and
zinc,
nutrition.
manganese, iron, carbon. These are all things that are depleted in our soil, and it's not that we intentionally did it. We just
Right,
grew plants in it for 50 years without doing anything to replace it.
right,
And we
right,
moved the livestock off the farm. The livestock were the animals on the Serengeti
right.
that gave back some of the energy that they consumed through the plant base that they ate. And they also peed on the ground, so they actually gave back any mineral that they moved from one place to another. We've packed these animals in kofas, and that's where all our trace mineral is. Well,
It's so
the amount of
crazy.
energy that it's going to take to get that mineral back out on the land
Yeah,
is a whole nother calorie calculation.
right. Yeah, that's we could probably do a whole nother show on that, because that fascinates me too. I keep, the whole livestock integration, and when we separated
Oh,
animals and
yeah,
plants, right? And how that just took
yeah.
away from the entire life cycle
Yeah, but it was efficiency.
of
See,
everything. Right,
and
right.
that's what we grew
But was
the
it?
whole food system. Right. Exactly.
Right,
Short term, we're
right,
only about short term.
right,
We never look down the road. We don't
right.
look at it. And that's one
This
of
is
the
the
things that
problem. We
Wendell
never look
talks
down the
about.
road.
We just don't analyze it to the point of, no, we can't be doing that. We
Right.
need to be doing it this way.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, because there are people like, I think about Joel Salatin, right? Like, that's his big message of, the animals and plants belong together, and he's successful. And there's farms that are learning from him that are successful. But why still haven't we gotten to this place where we're like, the CAFOs need to just go? I'm probably going to get censored for that.
No.
It's like, it's just
No.
insane. insane.
Yeah.
It's so brutal in so many ways.
Well,
It's
it's
brutal to just
having
drive by one. Like that's brutal enough. If that's not enough impetus
it's
for people,
running
like, oh my
running an
God.
economic system,
Yeah.
based on debt. That's how we value our currency, because that's what the Fed uses interest rates for. The value of the paper, and it's idiocy. It's
Very, very sad.
insanity.
Yeah.
We need to get back to something real, and that real thing right now is calorie.
Yeah.
And as soon as we can shift our focus to that, the better off we're going to be. It's not going to be an easy shift, that's for damn sure, but it can be done, and we're the ones to do it, because believe me, you and I, we lived in those days. I mean, my grandfather said, "Oh, those were the days." No,
Right.
sorry, Granddad. I lived those days, back when gas was 35 cents and a case of beer was $5.
No, it's fascinating to think about it, and human evolution, it's just a fascinating, bizarre thing. Like it's just what we're going through, right? And it's time to wake up. And like I said, I
spent a lot of money
want to
this
know.
year.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like this is a big thing, is people they want to turn a blind eye to. And I admittedly did it too, right? And it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of calories. Speaking of calories,
it's an addiction
about this stuff.
Yes.
To take part-time out of your life, to care, to think, to make it a priority. And the lifestyles that we have right now are not allowing people that luxury, so to speak, right? To care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
and that was like I said, my friend that's got a PhD in religious studies took this whole idea to an economic conference that she was attending in Switzerland, and she presented a paper, and she said, I was amazed by the number of mouths that just went.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an answer. Right. That's a way that we can be. We could change this.
Yeah. What's interesting to me too is that, like, I almost feel like the comprehension of a calorie in America versus the comprehension of economics based on debt, I think you have a better chance of talking to people about calories. Like it makes more sense.
They're connected, right?
Because the debt thing is so obscure and so like, how is that even a thing? But I know what a calorie is because I watch or I'm consuming, or my wife's yelling at me for eating too many calories. Like, right? Like there's so many. It's a word.
And everything you do in your life is calorie oriented. I mean, every time you move, that the guy in the cave, that was living in the cave with his woman, was looking outside going, okay, do I risk going over the ridge, which gonna, that's a good 3 miles I gotta walk, and I get over there and there's no game,
right?
Or do I risk going down to the creek where there's a lion, and I'm gonna have to, there's some root product down there that I can dig up and possibly run fast enough to get back up to the
right.
Cave
it's all
hole.
Calories, right?
Yeah, that's the calculation. It's going on in my primitive mind. To me, we're supposed to be modern now, so maybe we can take this simple equation and go, oh, all we got to do is stop and think before we jump out the cave hole.
It really is. It's a fascinating way to think about it, and I think it really could be a powerful shift. All right, so let's just make it.
But I don't know how you get them to listen.
That's what I just said. Let's just make it happen. It's easy, right? We just
easy.
Solved all the world's problems in one day. Everybody listen.
Yeah, look at that. We'll be on. We'll be statues in front of the Capitol.
Right. I don't think that's a goal of mine. Well, Rod, this has been awesome. What a great conversation.
Absolutely.
I honor the work that your family has done for generations, and your
I'm glad that you figured out the technology to be where you're at today, doing what you're doing, because honestly, this is the only way it gets out. This is the only way the message, or any sane message, gets communicated.
Thank you. It's I mean, this is where I think we have hope, because because we do have these abilities that we didn't have before. We have, there's a big contingency of people that care about this, that want this to be our way of life and want to bring this awareness. And though we might not show up on, NBC News or the Today Show, like when
and you're
people are
going down
looking
the right road. Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
right about that.
Yeah.
And we need to connect, and we need to have a
Exactly.
conversation, and we need to make an example.
Yeah.
We need to create an example, and that's what I'm trying to do out here in the middle of Wyoming, is create an example for a calorie-based economy that exists in the middle of the carbon beast.
Yeah.
Wyoming is the carbon beast. We're like the Middle East of the country.
Wow.
We dig up our carbon and ship it all over the world.
Right.
We're worse than a drug pusher on the corner. You know,
Wow. Interesting.
we can't even
perspective. Yeah.
we can't even have a conversation about anything else. We're so worried about the price of coal and the price of oil and the price of natural gas that, the people on top of the ground are like, what
Wow.
about the top of the ground?
Yeah. Right. It is. It's this short-term vision thing, right?
It is.
This is what we
And
have
that's
to do
our
with
whole
technology
economics.
and advances in the world is like whenever we come up with this brilliant idea, like even like when GMOs were created, right? Like I don't believe that everybody had evil intentions. Like the idea was feed the world, right? Make it bigger, make it better. But like long term, what are the long-term things here? Like how is this going to suck everything out of the land, and how is this going to affect people's health? And like there's so much more to it, right? We just have such short-term monetary visions that we don't think long-term. Like there should be this.
And nuclear power is a great example of that. That was one of those things that got presented to us as, oh, look at this panacea.
Right.
Look what it can do. This is a great way to boil water. No.
Right.
Right.
So,
we don't.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Let's put, a time on the calendar that we can come up and maybe do a show from the farm. That would be so great.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, because
Really-
we can actually show the example.
Yeah.
That's what I would really like to do, because
I would love that too.
we've probably got 150 solar panels that run all is going to run our freeze-dried food business, which
Love it.
I need to talk to you about that too.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been great. I so appreciate having your perspective and your wisdom. And
Well, I hope I didn't scare you too much, or your fan base, or
you know what?
or
I don't like have this intention of being like this doomsdayer person, but it's reality, right? Like you can't
reality.
not talk about it. You can't
Right.
not state the facts about where things are, and it's just important for people to hear. So we keep it positive by existing, by having these conversations, by saying there are people doing great things in the world to make better transitions, and just inviting everyone else to find the resources and do the best that they can. So
Yeah, and if you come up with something that you're wrestling with, let me know. Maybe we can wrestle together.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rod.
You bet.
All right. Have a good one.
I'll do it.